Welcome to the Science and Paranormal with Dr. Yana and Dr. Elliott, where science meets the unexpected, where we delve deep into the mysteries that straddle the line between scientific inquiry and paranormal. Get ready for a mind-altering journey as we embark on this phenomenal discovery together on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Science and the Paranormal. We're broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans, and also on Roku TV. Tonight we have a very special guest, don't we, Dr. Yana?
We have a fantastic guest today. Not only that she's fantastic, she's gorgeous. She is beautiful. So we are so fortunate to have you, Stevi Etes. Your name is unusual and your last name is unusual. So beautiful.
Thank you.
She's the host of Truth or Demons, a podcast and a YouTube show that takes deeper look into the muddled world of the paranormal and beyond. On her show, she digs up old cases investigated by the Warrens and takes a deeper look into the truth and facts surrounding them. She investigates places, people, and evidence, just so important to find all the truth and present them to her listeners and hopefully to us today as well. She also interviews people who have had direct connections and experiences with the Warrens and their organization to shed some light on what it was like to be in the field alongside Ed and Lorraine Warren and how things are now as a result. Was it truth or demons? Welcome, beautiful woman.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're looking forward to this incredible conversation.
Yeah.
We've got our first fan, Eric Vitale.
Eric!
Who
I love
actually
it.
used to be a member of the New England Society for Psychic Research.
Yes, he did. He's been a major player in helping me with the podcast. His guest appearance ignited just a landslide of people contacting me, wanting to be on the show, or like recommendations, like for people who would be good interviews that could talk about their experiences with the Warrens and with Nesper.
So when you created Truth and Demons podcast, what was kind of your purpose behind creating it? Were you a fan of the Warrens and then it kind of led into the direction that it's gone now, or tell us about that?
So what started me on the journey was the movies. I grew up with a pretty intense interest in the paranormal, thanks to my mom and the stuff I would see on TV. And then when the Conjuring film, the first one, came out, I thought it was phenomenal. And the story was so good. And the whole fact that it was based on a true story, got me thinking. And after watching it, I know how movies work, and of course they fill in some stuff and they make it a little more dramatic and they change some stuff. So my curiosity got the best of me and I had to know the real story behind it, and it turned into this deep dive into so much information. And I knew about some other cases from before, like the Haunting in Connecticut movie, the boy with cancer. That's actually a Warren's case, and I knew about that and didn't know it was a Warren's case until I started researching more. And I've uncovered so much. I've found so many like really amazing people involved, and it's been really fun.
You've actually tracked down some really interesting people in the Ed and Lorraine Warren world. You've actually tracked down the original owner of the Annabelle doll.
Mm-hmm.
You tracked down the reporter that reported on the Annabelle doll. Tell us about some of those experiences.
Oh, that's probably my favorite one. So my Annabelle journey, actually, I did an Annabelle episode. My second episode was on Annabelle because chronologically, the stories, that's where it would kind of go. Their first major case that they published and they talked about was the Annabelle story. So I started there and I covered what, the general knowledge on it. I didn't get a whole lot that people didn't already know. So it wasn't much other than I did learn that the story itself is very similar to that Twilight Zone episode with the doll, and the mom's name being Annabelle, the character's name. So I found that out and didn't know that. But then when I interviewed Eric and then I had Frank on, I was contacted by a NESPER member named Dan Rivera, and he told me a really tall tale that I couldn't accept as truth, and that led me down the rabbit hole of Annabelle, and that's how I ended up finding someone shared a news article with me from the 70s that talked about the Annabelle owners, that called them by their real names, which we all know them to be Donna, Angie, and Lou, or Deirdre, Lara, and Cal, because depending on which publication you read, they changed it in 2012. And so this newspaper article had their real names, and it was my first time ever seeing those names. So I looked them up, and two of the people had passed away already, but one of them was still alive, and I was having a hard time finding her. And then I got an anonymous tip, because I get a lot of those. Randomly, people will message me and want to be anonymous, but have information for me. And so that led me to her. And though she did not want to talk to me, she did speak with someone who helps me with research on a public post and admitted it was her doll and that the story was wrong. But that's as far as she would go. And she will not talk to us. So
that's interesting. But you did track down the reporter that wrote that article
yes,
from the 1970s. And
yes, I almost forgot.
she also had some interesting things to tell you as well.
Yes, it was really exciting to find her because it was so long ago, and just the fact that she was still working and willing to be interviewed was fantastic. And she was so nice. I loved her. And she told me about how the Warrens contacted her. She worked for the newspaper, and they wanted her to write this piece for them. And she went and met with the women, the original owners of the doll, and the Warrens. And she was even given permission to take the doll with her to the news studio to photograph it for the paper. And she claims, even though it was a little creepy and unsettling, nothing happened to her while she had that doll alone in her car. And one of the notorious stories is she causes accidents. So that was pretty interesting.
Very interesting. I've told you this before off camera that you should have went to like journalism school, because I think you would have made like an amazing investigative journalist. But you've taken this podcast, like the research for your episodes, to the next level from what I've seen. You track down these witnesses from historical cases belonging to the Warrens. Like you said, people are tipping you off with information here and there, almost like they would to a news reporter.
Yeah.
Where do you see your podcast going in the future? I mean, right now you've got episodes about Annabelle and touch a little bit on the New England Society for Psychic Research. Where do you see yourself going with this?
So I'd really like to complete all of the major well-known cases and documented cases of the Warrens, as in like what's published in their books, what they've made movies of, anything people with firsthand accounts can tell me. And then once I've covered all that, and my main goal with that is to put all the truths out there I can, and then leave it up, of course, leave it up to the public to decide how they feel and what they think about it. And then once I've covered all that, I would really like to expand to other subjects, other cases, other investigators, other people in history. I'd really love to cover Hans Holzer. I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Hans Holzer, yeah.
Yeah, he had a big part in influencing the Warrens. So I think it would be really fun to cover him too. So I would really like to branch out to as many stories and get the truths in them as I can.
That would be interesting to do some work on Hans Holzer's involvement with the Warrens. And he has this daughter, Alexandria, that you probably know of, that's involved in the paranormal and a paranormal investigator. So I'm sure you might be able to track her down. I know she's on social media. And
yeah, that would be really fun.
That would be interesting to see where that goes. Now, what's your thought on the Warrens? I've always been a supporter of them. I thought their work was interesting. I've got several other books. Obviously, I know I've been involved in the paranormal investigating and researching it now for 27 years. And I'm also a law enforcement officer, or was a law enforcement officer for 15 years. So I know that some things, are dramatized and things like that. But from what I have seen with the Warrens is they were really about publicizing their work. And in some cases, and I think you even cover that off in one of your episodes about them getting contracts with people and meeting with Hollywood producers and things like that about some of the cases that they worked.
Mm-hmm.
What did you uncover about that kind of darker monetary side of
Yes. So when I began this journey, I did have a very strong opinion of the Warrens that I did try to keep, to myself a little bit because I don't want to influence anyone else, but I really did see them as frauds. I didn't know a lot about their work, but I did know a lot about the stuff that was being debunked about them, and then some of the far-fetched tales and stuff. And then when the movie started coming out, but when I started interviewing people and talking to people that experienced them, there are two sides to them, I believe. There is the side that was after the fame and fortune. I fully believe that that was a goal. I think it was more of a kind of like a pipe dream to begin with before they realized it could really go somewhere. And I do believe, especially after speaking to some people, that they did mean it when they said that they didn't take money from people and they didn't want to take money from people. Their money was made in their books and their lectures. So I think most of the time they wanted to help, but I think it kind of got clouded a little bit with their need to be in the limelight and how much they loved it, because they really did start to love it, I think.
Interesting. I've also heard stories from other investigators, and if you haven't talked to them yet, one investigator was Carl Johnson. He's a demonologist in the New England area. I'm not sure if you've come across him yet, but I can put you in touch with him.
Okay.
He was a student paranormal investigator one time, and he had a case that involved the Warrens, and the Warrens kind of pushed the other investigators out and kind of didn't like to play nice in the sandbox, as we say. Have you come across any other stories like that about the Warrens?
Yes. One of the most famous ones would probably be Enfield. Even though they didn't push anybody out of that, they really did try to take it over. And there was several people that said they tried to take it over by offering money, especially to Guy Lyon Playfair. They told him they could make him a lot of money if they would team up. And he said, no, that's not, what I'm about. And so they kind of failed with that one, but they did offer, a lot of people will make you famous. The Perrin family was another example. They tried really hard to get them to give their rights up for this story. And they told him, we'll make you famous. We'll make movies. We'll make money. And Andrea's mom, she just kept saying no. And then I know that they did not have a hand in the Amityville one, but I think they got ideas from that because of the talk about making a book out of it, and then how they went along and went ahead and did make the book about it. So I think they watch and pay attention to that stuff.
Eric just reminded me it was the Perrin family haunting, or the Conjuring house, that Keith and his brother Carl were initially involved with. It was a kind of a paranormal investigator group associated to might have been the University of Rhode Island. But I'll definitely put you in touch with him because again, I was very disappointed to hear that, because like I said, I'm a fan of the Warrens and their work and their legacy, in demonology. But every once in a while you start hearing these negative stories.
Yep. And I kind of feel a little bad because every time I do a case, I'm not intending to burst anyone's bubble with their, for the Warrens and stuff. I really don't want to upset anyone, but unfortunately it's a side effect, because the more I uncover and the more truths I share, the harder it is to kind of keep that idolization of them, because it's just hard to you thought they were one thing and then you find out that they're definitely not. And it's kind of hard. Like the whole don't meet your heroes thing. They tell you not to meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. So it's kind of like that.
But the truth can be damaging and it also very uncomfortable,
Yes,
so
true.
we should not be really afraid to uncover the truth and speak up,
Right.
because who else if not us, right? And I'm so proud of you for doing this work because other people are not. And look at the Warrens, and at the time when they started their entire, I can't really say business, but their involvement into the paranormal. And if you look at it with everything that you just mentioned so far, you don't want to go out and say, "Oh, I have had the experience with the paranormal, with the demons, and I'm just going to go out there and publicize it all," right? I've noticed that only people who are not who are hiding the truth or who don't have anything to do with the truth, that they are going to come out, in fact, and create the stories, or just take one story and take it for a spin and publish a book, or just go out and
Yeah.
become absolutely famous, because people like lies. They prefer lies.
Yes.
Not that many people prefer the truth.
Hmm.
So if we look at the Warrens and how many people say that they are the real deal, and a lot of them try to just completely debunk them, like in many cases, as well as in the Amityville,
Hmm.
you would think that who in their normal state of mind would want to go into this kind of a business, guys? Nobody. Because when I spoke to Father Gary, who was the protagonist of the movie The Ride, he lives here in Northern California. He told me that movie, it's actually about the exorcist. If not many people who are familiar with that, he was the exorcist in the movie, and based on true events. So Father Gary told me that, Yana, who in their right mind would want to go into exorcism? Nobody. But
Yeah.
if you're put onto that path in life, you have to take it. So they did. They took that path, and I like to read biographies, and their biography is absolutely incredible, and you can see the truth there and authenticity. So we are not here, in fact, to persuade anyone or offend anyone. We're having a conversation and we're uncovering what we can uncover and present it, and which is marvelous. So I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm really enjoying it too. I've had so many great experiences doing it.
that's great, and I mean, I fully support that. Especially built into our mission statement at Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation, the nonprofit organization that I'm the corporate director for, is to provide factual, evidence-based education to the public, in a world, like I say, that still has a lot of misconceptions, frauds, and abusers involved in
Hmm.
it. We talk about mediumship being one of those issues now. I'm hearing a lot of stories about mediums have switched away from doing that one-on-one private reading because they can only do so many a day, almost like a psychologist seeing a client, to now they do open group meetings where they're charging, $125 a ticket to come in, and they might read, still 4 or 5 people within the audience, but they're
Oh,
selling out. And
yeah. Well, just wait, Dr. Elliott. They're going to employ AI technology.
Oh,
Just wait. It's going to
oh
happen.
my
It's going to
goodness.
happen.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all. So I think that it's important to do the type of work that you're doing, which is just kind of clearing up any sort of misunderstanding and,
Hmm.
um, any sort of misinformation.
Yeah.
Now, I know you uncovered literally with your investigative journalism skills about the accident story surrounding
Hmm.
Annabelle, because that's one of the big important stories behind the haunted doll Annabelle, is that don't touch her, don't touch the case,
Yeah.
don't invite her, don't talk to her. She's been known to cause people injuries, and the one story that gets repeated is this motorcycle accident that happened. So what did you uncover about this story? Because I find this one absolutely fascinating.
This one, it has been so much fun and such a ride. So initially, when I did my very first look into Annabelle, I did, learn about the motorcycle accident. I'd heard about it before. It's their biggest claim to fame to her power. And as like being into investigative journalism and how you deep dive into the internet to find everything you can, and you get deeper and deeper, and you usually find evidence of things, especially if it's something that would have been reported on, like an accident. It would have been in the newspaper, it would have been reported on, there would have been an obituary, there would have been information on it. And for years, people, not just me, but people have tried to find this evidence of this accident, and no one's been able to find it. And so when I was contacted by Dan, I told him, because he starts telling me the story how he witnessed the accident when he was 8 years old. And that just, to me, it was too much. It was really such a tall tale. It did not feel like a genuine story. I just felt like there's no way. And so that fueled me to investigate it a little further. And I ended up contacting, because he told me, if you want that information, you can't just find it on the internet. It's not going to be on Internet Archives. It's the kind of thing that you'd have to walk into the library yourself and look in their archives. And so I decided to email them, because I can't just go into Connecticut libraries at the moment, being, in Nashville. So I emailed them, and they were so helpful. They actually told me they have no record of any such accidents. They contacted other libraries for me to, find out if they had them. Nobody has any record of this accident. And so then I found a Facebook group of people who grew up in that area in the 70s and 80s. And I posted an anonymous post to see if anybody remembered an accident like that. Because I feel like if that happened, people would remember. Someone passes away and the passenger survives, and it was supposedly caused by this haunted doll. Like, that would be something people would remember.
That is so incredible and ingenious of you, by the way.
Thank you very much. I was like, there's got to be someone out there that does actually have these eyewitness accounts, if they happened. And so while I'm trying to see if anyone's heard or seen anything about this accident, someone decided to comment and tell me that particular road that Dan insists it happened on was not operational to the public when Dan said it happened. And then, because they told me that, a friend of mine helped me locate the records of the construction, and it was not built until 1982 in February. And Dan claims it happened when he was 8 years old in 1980. And he's very emphatic about those two facts, 8 years old and 1980. So if you're going to tell a story like that, I feel like maybe you should check your facts first, and then maybe not be so adamant about your dates and stuff. Like, when you remember things, you usually say, well, I was between 8 and 10. That would make it would sound more genuine and sincere. So
were you ever
false
able
memory event, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, if he did witness something like that, he's obviously clearly got his facts mixed up. And there could be some psychological reasons behind that, like Dr. Yana
Absolutely
said. False memories. The information about the motorcycle crash, I believe, is in the book, The Demonologist.
Yes,
I do believe.
yes.
It's been a long time since I read it, but I do believe it's in there. Do you think that's where that information came from? Or
so I believe that it's a made-up story, first of all, and I believe that Ed himself made it up. And I believe that the whole story of Dan witnessing it comes from his really intense want to be a part of the Warrens and their legacy. And to further his tall tale, I've actually been told by more than one person that they were around Ed, and Dan didn't come around until after Ed had passed, and they say they never heard this story until Dan started telling it. And so no one else had heard Dan, share it until he decided to start telling people publicly that it was something he witnessed. So it feels like an attempt to be a part of something.
Very
So
interesting.
it is absolutely important to check your facts and not just be so gullible and believing everything. Because even in the movies, not everything is factual. We must understand that. Although, for example, in The Conjuring, of course, they are AI. Gotta be smart here. Effects, right? but and a lot of things were made up. However, now, Stevie, was it pretty much to the uh, reflecting the truth or not?
Okay, so if we're talking about the first Conjuring film, which was the Perron family haunting, originally, I fully believed that this family experienced a haunting. And then, of course, the movie made it Hollywoodized. They made it more intense, more, they changed things that were really random. Like one of the things they changed was, so as Andrea tells it, her mom would wake up, or the clock stopped at like 5:15 a.m. And then in the movie, it's 3 a.m. because that plays on that narrative of the
Right.
witching hour and such.
Absolutely.
So the movie changed those those tiny things. But then when you talk to Andrea, she says that the only thing true about the movie is a family moved into a haunted farm. And everything else the movie made up. And as far as what they experienced, it was completely different. Of course, Carolyn never got possessed. There was never an exorcism. That's a big misconception. People believe 100% there was an exorcism because of the film. And I'll have people tell me, oh, no, there was an exorcism. She got exorcised. And I'm like, no, there was a seance. They tried to call forward this entity they believed was needing banished, which they claim was Bathsheba, and that's a whole other situation. A lot of people are really, really upset about Bathsheba. She was a character that was brought into the story that's history was completely rewritten and falsified, and she was turned into a villain that she was not in real life. And there's some people very, very upset about that. It even went as far as Bathsheba's headstone was vandalized after the film because people thought she was an evil witch, and they tore down her headstone. And so there's actually a woman I've been working with. I'm going to do another episode to cover some more facts and some more history that I wasn't aware of when I started. And I think you pronounce it Jamie, but Jamie actually did a fundraiser, and she raised enough money to replace Bathsheba's headstone. And so she's helping me recover it so I can write her history.
That's very fascinating, Stevie. I know the Conjuring franchise itself is huge. I mean, I myself am a fan of the movies, even though, like you said, it's loosely based on real cases. The Dunn and Valak and all that stuff is just completely Hollywood.
Yeah.
But super, super big franchise. It's made a lot of money. Overall, I would say with all the movies, I think the last number I heard, so all your Annabelle movies, the Nuns, the Conjuring movies, they've made over $2 billion. So huge industry. I know that when I was investigating my case in Rhode Island, a haunted house in Exeter, Rhode Island, I drove by the Conjuring house, and it was owned by the old lady that sued the Warner
Norma
company. Yes, because there were just so many trespassers coming. They had signs everywhere. It said, like, if you even stop in front of our house, we're calling the police, like, because they were just being bombarded by paranormal tourists. And it's one thing to drive by the house, but they were having people like sneak on the property and, of course, things like that. And that would be very, very scary. I wouldn't want people sneaking on my property, especially if I got and kids and family and stuff like that.
Especially if they think there's a demon in it.
No, for sure. And they've since sold it. I know it's changed hands once or maybe twice now. And whoever owns it now, I mean, they're using it again for monetary purposes. They charge ghost hunters and investigators to come in, and like you said, you were actually looking at renting the Conjuring house out and traveling to Rhode Island and doing almost like a Truth and Demons episode there. And there was all kinds of rules about live broadcasting and extra money that it would cost and things like that. So it's definitely a money maker, and you have to be very skeptical and critical when you're dealing with something like that, because that's one of the things we used to look for. You don't see it a whole lot anymore now in the field of parapsychology, but that was one thing that you would look for, is people that were media hungry, people that were looking to monetize off their investigation. So those would be generic questions that we still ask to this day. But again, usually people look at you like, when you say, did you contact anyone from the media about this? And they look at you like you're crazy. They're like, no. they don't even want to tell you about
Yeah.
it, let alone, make it public. So very, very interesting. Did you ever have time to look into the ghost boy photograph from Amityville? Because we've heard
Yes.
multiple different things. It was taken by an investigator that was working while the Warrens were there. Some people believe it was possibly the spirit of one of the two little boys that were killed in the house.
Yep.
Either John or Mark, I believe, is usually who that's attributed to. Some people have even gone as far to say that it's a visual pareidolia, which is a psychological condition where our mind tries to make sense of, nonsensical things, so that it's just somebody seeing this face here. And then I've heard even stories that it was one of the investigators with the Warrens that possibly peeked his head out and it got caught on the infrared film. Have you been able to dig anything up on that?
So nothing further than what you elaborated on, but the one thing I did find interesting was out of the handful of people that I've interviewed or spoken to, even off record, that have had experience with Amityville, half of them believe it's a real a spirit. Half of them believe it's a genuine spirit that Ed caught. Half of them believe it was the crew member, because they like to compare that flannel T-shirt or button-up shirt that he was wearing. He had glasses on, so they're saying that, like, the reflection in the eyes. There was a big argument with Ed over the eyes. I saw an interview where someone tried to tell him that the eyes reflected the light, so it meant that it was just like a camera flash or whatever. And he argued adamantly that no, that was a sign of it being an inhuman spirit. So I disagree. I've seen plenty of photography like that, where the eyes are whited out for various reasons, night vision or flash or whatever. So that's definitely not true. But there are a handful of people out there that believe it's a genuine capture. So I'm still up in the air on that. I honestly think it could be any of them. It really does look like the guy with the shirt, like it could be him. It really does look like it could be one of the little boys. The nose is very distinct, so it just seems like it's so hard to convince your mind of one or the other without knowing for sure, because that one really stumps me, and it stumps a lot of people. I get asked that a lot, actually, and that's one I'm not sure of. I can't debunk it.
I think if you could crack that one, that would be really, really cool.
It would, yeah.
I'm not sure if the investigator that people say it possibly is, if he's still alive or not.
I should look into that, and see if I can find him, because I'm pretty sure his name will be listed in the people that were there.
It should be, yeah. That would be really interesting to track him down and see what he thinks. Obviously, I've never seen anything public where he's admitted that it was him.
And also about him, he did say, I watched a lot of the interviews, because there was a news crew and that reporter, I can't remember his name, but I really liked him. He was really funny. But he did say that on the way up the stairs, he got heart palpitations. And that could be, an interference with something going on in the atmosphere, paranormal wise, or it could be nervousness. So.
Yeah, it most certainly could be. I do think it would be fascinating if you could crack that one.
I'm gonna put him on my list. I'm gonna find him.
It's always intrigued me as well, because, like I said, he's the investigator. Like, if it was me caught in a photograph, I would come.
Right.
Oh no, that was just me, guys, or whatever. Probably wouldn't have even made it out to the public.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be knowingly involved in anything that was faked. I would feel really wrong about that.
Yeah, and I mean, it happens. We had a case last summer where my professional photographer. So on my team, I have a commercial photographer. So he goes through all our photographs and looks for images. And he actually caught one at this haunted house we were investigating, and it looked like a man. You could clearly tell it was a man, was coming out of the bedroom, and you could just kind of see this kind of plaid shirt and blue jeans, but it was semi-transparent, and he thought that was really interesting. Messages me and sends me the photo to look at, and after looking at it, I'm like, oh, you know what that is? I said that was the owner of the house. I said he must have just come out of the bedroom at the exact same time I took the photograph.
Right.
And then when Mike looked at the metadata, he said it captured like the light at 0.4 like milliseconds or whatever. So it makes sense that he was kind of blurry and translucent because it was just such a quick opening of the shutter. So it made total sense. So you just never know. Like, and that was unintentional. But again, I did share it with the homeowners. I said, hey, we caught something cool on the camera, but it's not paranormal. And, you know, they thought that was really cool that we shared that.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I had, oh, go ahead.
But what it used to be, we had just regular cameras with film, guys. And at that time, it was actually possible to prove something, correct? But now, with the digital world, we are not going to be able to prove anything, just to look at it and remember how it used to be and distinguish whether that's truth or actually demons or angels. Because I see it so many times, people are posting, in fact, AI images claiming that it is true. And you can actually see that. Those are some historical buildings. And I know from having that from a reference that I know that those are not correct ones. That's just AI image, and people get offended. They do get offended. And without truth, whether we want it or not, we have to speak up.
Yeah, I'm in a couple of different random Facebook groups where people share things they think are paranormal. And a woman shared a photo one time, and it's a photo of two dogs staring down a hallway, and they're very alert, and there's nothing in the hallway. But if you zoom in on the photo, it appears a face is peeking out about human height level around the corner down the hallway. And if you zoom it in enough, you can clearly tell it's like a cutout image that's just pasted over top of the image. And so, like, I told him, I was like, this is a layered photo. And if you know anything about Photoshop, like, I work a lot with like modeling and photography and stuff. And there's a ton of Photoshop involved in modeling and photography. And you can see during editing your layers as you're layering colors, or you're like, you want to cut out this part of your image because of the background being off or whatever, like you can tell the layers. And so when I tried to explain that to this person, they got so upset. They're like, what kind of expert are you? And I'm just like, well, I mean, I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm just trying to help you understand why that it's not real. So, yeah.
Well, a lot of the times that people would not even want to hear that because, as I mentioned before, people prefer lies because that then they can entertain themselves in a possibility. And then it's really difficult to hear the truth that there is nothing there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time it makes people, when they find out something's not true, it really upsets them because then they question other things that they might not have questioned before. And some people get really uncomfortable with that.
Too about, you said you did modeling and with the Photoshop. There was a photo I used to show. It doesn't have as much relevance now anymore because of AI, but there was a photo I used to show of my niece and nephew. And the only thing that was real in the was them, and the clothes that they were wearing had been completely generated, including looked like they were sitting on a dock, and you could see the reflection in the water, and you can see, you know, the ripples in the water. All that was fake. I'm going to try and share it. I've never done this before, but I will just try and see if I can share it. I'm not sure if I can or not. No, I can't. I'll have to ask. I want to ask Michelle how to do that so we can start sharing like some images and things like that, because it was really cool. But yeah, it's, and now with AI, you can do that within seconds. So there's not somebody just sitting in a photo lab, like, you know, like you said, airbrushing and stretching things out and fixing up pixels and stuff like that. Before I even retired from the police, law enforcement was actually having difficulty trying to determine what was fake digital evidence and what was real. So we do live in a dangerous time. It's almost become, and I say this now in my lectures, that seeing is believing now. You know, before they used to say a photograph's worth 1,000 words. Well, now it's not worth anything. Video's not worth anything. There was just a news article I read this week where a finance worker paid out $25 million deep fake video call from the chief financial officer of a company.
Wow.
And it's the type of technology that we're facing now, right? So
Yeah.
you almost have to witness the paranormal phenomena yourself now in order to believe it. I see all
Yeah.
the videos too on TikTok, and people send me them all the time. They're really fascinating to watch, but there's just so much that you can fake now.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that like to send me the TikTok videos, and almost instantly you can usually tell the fake ones, like the really obviously fake ones. And I'll have friends and family be like, "Oh no, I really wanted that to be real. I thought you'd love it," and I'm over here, pooping on their party.
But it's so interesting that people, a lot of the times, they would want to experience all those paranormal events that they
Yeah.
hear about. Nevertheless, I'm confident that if they came into contact with something like the Raggedy Ann doll, they will be completely terrified. They probably would have literally a heart attack,
Hmm.
because a lot of the times those things are not pretty. They are not fun. And not just you only see that, you can actually experience the horror.
Hmm.
You have different physical manifestations, and it's absolutely not pretty. The reason why I even believed in this Raggedy Doll and story, because I had it in my practice as well. Not that I was in a possession of that doll, but that happened to one of my clients, and they called me with a hope to find out what was happening with their 10-year-old son. And it turned out to be that when I came onto the scene, I started speaking just like Dr. Elliott. I came to the scene. I came to the scene. Yeah, so when I came, that in fact turned out to be a little doll. I have no idea why a boy would be presented a doll to his birthday. So I don't know. People do different, strange things. However, what happened is that that doll was actually store-bought. Nevertheless, that doll was actually possessed and had a different spirit, and that was really not pretty. It was, I would say, nasty, and even being in the presence of that thing was very horrifying, I would say. So when we try to actually go out there and chase the paranormal. I know that there are a lot of shows chasing the paranormal. We're going to go to the haunted houses and we're just going to catch the glimpse. In fact, when they come face to face with something like this, they are going to be horrified and they will just run out of that building. I'm confident about it. So while we do want to really see and come into contact of something strange and experience that ourselves to tickle our nerves can get tickled so much that we may never be the same and could get
Hmm.
a PTSD from that experience. And
Hmm.
not all of us are strong people, right? Some are pretty weak with different nervous conditions. So we should avoid actually chasing the paranormal, because it may have consequences, like you said, Stevi.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem with the Annabelle story is, like you said, like if you come in contact with something like this that's legitimate, it is terrifying. It is not something you take lightly or make fun of or anything like that. And something like that isn't just contained the way Annabelle is. It isn't just set, in a case and it's fine. It's, exploited around the world and put people's lives in danger. If we're really talking about a haunting, like that's a little irresponsible. But yeah, like if it's real and it's happening to somebody, it's not the same. It's not sensational. It's not, scream it from the rooftops, look at me, look what I'm going through. It's scary.
Yeah, and you make some good points, and I see some memes kicking around Facebook about like how much the doll is promoted as being super haunted, super evil, and then you do make a good point that they're traveling all over the place with this doll. They flew it out to Las Vegas to go hang out with Zach Baggins, and now they bring it to the Warren Paranormal Conference every year, and then now
Mm-hmm.
I saw that they're doing some more events outside of outside of Connecticut there. So,
Yep.
They're certainly carting around this doll where it was promoted by Ed himself, not to ever touch it or acknowledge
Yep.
the doll. So
Yep.
very interesting.
Yeah, and to further that, they're now taking more items. They've made a whole tour of the items that were never supposed to leave the museum, so that makes it even harder to accept these things as true, scary, possessed items. It becomes more and more of a circus, kind of.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've got some haunted items myself, and I've only taken them once to an event that we did, and I'll cover that off here in 1 second. But right now, everyone's listening to Science and the Paranormal, and we're broadcasting live from the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM. Out of New Orleans and also on Roku TV. And tonight we have a special guest with us, Stevi, who runs the Truth or Demons podcast. So with my items, I took a haunted monkey that had a backstory that basically there was a family in Missouri that ran a kind of a flea market, and they would get called to estate sales, and they went to this estate home that was being cleared out, and there was a really creepy monkey that's got like these baby hands and like furry and just like really, really creepy. And the two sisters just wanted to get rid of this doll. So the son that works at the flea market there, his dad owns it, had taken the doll home, and he and his girlfriend claimed that they'd come home from work and it would be found in different places. And one night they said that they thought they saw its head turn. So the girlfriend just said, like, we don't want, I don't want this doll in the house. So they locked it up in a case, and then he was looking to get rid of it. And I had seen it on a paranormal kind of Facebook group, and I did some research on the flea market company to see if they've sold haunted items, and they actually hadn't talked anything about the paranormal or ghosts or haunted items or anything like that. So I contacted them and ended up making shipping arrangements to have it sent here. And I've never had anything happen with it. I don't have any cool stories. It just has a cool backstory. My wife works up here full time with the doll. It was on a TV show called Repossessed, and like I said, the backstory is more cool than the actual doll because it's never done anything to us. Same thing with a haunted painting that I have. So a lady was going through a really rough time, and when she does go through rough time, she normally expresses it through art. And there has been, some parapsychological research done that art can capture intentions and energy and things like that. So she had painted this really cool, very red, bright painting, and it had a door in the middle, a brown door. And for her, it was basically a story saying that, she's beaten drug addiction and she's about to walk through this new door and start like this new kind of chapter in her life. So once she had painted it and put it up on her wall, it wouldn't stay hung up on the wall. It kept falling off the wall, and one night it actually flew off the wall and hit her husband. And then she decided to go online, and she was talking to people about how to get rid of it because she thought that it was haunted. And so I had reached out to her, and she wasn't looking for money, but I said, listen, I'll pay for the shipping costs of it. So she said, okay. So the next day she went to Staples to go get the shipping package, and she was almost T-boned as she was going there. So she goes there, she gets the items, she packages it up, she leaves it in her van, and she says, I'm going to go to the post office the next day, so I'll just leave it in the van overnight. She sent me photos the next day. Someone had actually tried to break into her van. They ripped the door handle off the van. They smashed out a window, never took the painting, just took some loose change and things like that. And then while she's at the post office, she's trying to ask me, how she wants to send it, how I want this sent, because, there's overnight, which is probably like $2,000. And then there's, 5 days, which is like $500. And then there's like, it might get to you sometime this month for $12 or whatever. So I said, that's a bit of humor there, Dr. Yana.
Oh, okay. So now it's time to laugh. Okay. Sometimes you gotta tell me. Sometimes you gotta tell. Okay, Yana, it's time to laugh.
But no, so I told her just send it the cheapest possible way. But while she was trying to communicate with me, her phone kept like glitching out and it was resetting on her, and it was quite a process. Needless to say, I've had it in my possession, and it's actually hanging up on my wall. For those that can see it over there. And then actually there's the monkey too.
I see the monkey.
He's just sitting there chilling too. So I haven't had anything happen. I did bring it to one event, didn't charge people like to see it or anything like that. It was just part of the event. And it had the backstories. And there was one more item there, which I don't own. My colleague does, Daryl Walsh. He had a rocking chair that rocked for 3 days during World War II when his uncle was killed. And it took 3 days for the telegram to arrive. So the rocking chair, after he was killed, they didn't know he was killed. It just started rocking on its own for 3 days straight. And then 3 days later, when the telegram arrived, they realized that he had died. And then once the telegram was delivered, it stopped rocking. So that we had that item at the event as well. But
I hate rocking chairs. Yeah, rocking chairs, because it actually happened to us as well. After you finish your thought, Dr. Elliott, I'm going to talk about my own rocking chair. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, just my final thought on it is that, now you see what's happening with haunted items now. They go to museums like Zach Bagans Museum, for example, which obviously must have a donation or an admissions fee, I would assume. I've never been there myself. And then, of course, I've been to one of the Warrens events. They didn't charge to see the items per se, but now I know they actually sell tickets specifically if you just want to go see the occult museum type artifacts now. So that certainly changed. I think I went and saw them in Connecticut back in would have been 2018, I think, but it's certainly changed since then. Like you said, now there's more items being traveled around, and it's kind of a subculture of the paranormal now. Haunted items and making money off haunted items.
And I think it's a big part of it was the fact that the museum itself was shut down for commercial use. It was it became a problem for the zoning of the neighborhood for people to be parking on the street and coming to the museum. So I think that's what led them to creating the traveling shows and the cons and stuff.
Yeah, which makes sense because, and I did read the same thing. It was basically they didn't have a commercial zoning. It was in a residential area. The parking was really bad, and there was issues about fire trucks if they needed to get in there and things like that. And then it makes sense. Okay, if we can't do that, either they should open up a commercial museum, or like you said, you're doing road traveling trips. And but then it goes again to the question: if these items are so evil and so bad, they're taking. And every time the doll is put in the vehicle, things happen. Tires fall off, flat tires. And how come you're risking out your life basically each time you travel with items?
Yeah, we don't understand, and we don't even want to pay attention to that. We want to travel, we want to show it off. However, there are consequences to that, and we have to weigh the positive and negative and actually see whether we do want to get involved. I know that the Warrens, they were easy about it. They just knew that those who are not involved in those cases should not be touching them. Even themselves, they didn't touch although no, there is a picture of I believe Lorraine holding that doll actually. Yeah, but there are ways, I believe, to even talk to these items, because they are not just the regular physical items. There are spirits and entities behind them.
Right.
Tell your story about the rocking chair, because then I'm hitting Stevie with a few more questions while I got
sorry about
interrogation.
Yes, interrogation, exactly. Yes, but when we think about a rocking chair on any kind of haunted objects, it's not necessarily like a sensation that we are experiencing. In the book that I'm getting ready to publish, there is one of the occurrences in the home that I used to live, and that was one of the rocking chair. When everyone would be downstairs, including the guests that would come to our house, there would always be this noise in one particular room of the rocking chair. And we would all run upstairs to see who the hell is upstairs in our own home. And we would enter the room and the chair would be rocking on its own. That is actually the creepy side, people. It's nothing of not alluring at all. And turned out to be that there was a previous owner who died in that room. And evidently she really liked it wasn't really new, but nevertheless, it was not her rocking chair. So they can use any items that they find alluring and use them.
And that makes sense. Yeah.
That makes sense, exactly. And one that Dr. Elliott mentioned of the pictures, haunted the pictures as well, that in fact, and I want to hear your opinion, Stevi, on that. I had an experience with icons, with Christian icons, that we used to go as a tradition, our family, to the Russian Orthodox Church here in the United States. And once in a while on just great holidays. However, there was a time when the icon was brought from Hawaii, which is supposedly was miraculous icon, and so many people were just flocking to St. Louis to see it. And we were not an exception, of course. Who doesn't want to go and see the miraculous icon, right? That you can get healed immediately, right? So we went, our entire family, and interestingly enough, that the icon, again, just like that doll that I described, that was a printed icon at the factory. It was just a printed one. It wasn't any of the old ones. It was a printed one, and it was printed in Hawaii. And there was Mother Mary. I don't remember exactly what kind of Mother Mary. There was one, but there's so many different kinds in the Orthodoxy. So what happened to that? They would give people who came to visit a little cotton swab with the oil that would be coming from the icon that they would be collecting. They would be with an little image of that icon. And as we brought it home, for 3 nights, our entire family had nightmares, the most awful nightmares. Nobody slept. And it was so horrifying because it would come to you. And even if you opened your eyes at night, if it just was me, that would be one thing. But that icon would be just flying in the air, just coming onto you, intimidating you. It was so horrible for 3 nights. I thought, okay, like the first night would be okay, the second night, but the third one was really horrible. And I had even to ask the priest what's going on there. And of course, he mentioned, oh, there's something going on in your house. No, there was nothing going on up until this image came into our house. So I had to get rid of it. I just put it all in the bag and I got rid of it. Outside of the town, I put it in the bushes. However, every time, years after, I would be driving by those bushes, it would still be there and I could see that bag, However, every time that I would pass it, it would give me this horrifying feeling. So it wasn't just an object. It was a very unpleasant object with whatever demonic attachment that it had. And somehow it was really sold to people as something divine when it was not. So all of the crazy experiences, they disappeared after I got rid of the images, of course, and the cotton swabs. But have you ever heard any stories like that?
I have not specifically like that, but I have heard that there's a lot of paranormal energy and power in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting that it would be that they say it was from there. There's a lot of folklore about bad energies in Hawaii that will kidnap you and take you, and you don't venture off too far into the jungle or whatever, and like stuff like that. So that's what I was thinking the whole time, is like maybe it was someone who was practicing in that kind of thing over there, and they were trying to, in disguise, present it to other people in a way that they would accept it, and then it be invasive like that.
That
really
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Now you have to go see if it's still there out of the road and send it to me. I'll pay the shipping.
Yeah, or you just pay shipping for everything. No, I don't want to go back to Missouri ever again. No, I'm done. I'm good here in California, guys. I can visit you in Canada. I can go to Tennessee, but I'm not going back to Missouri. No. And seeing that bush again, guys.
No, that's interesting. No, if I do see somebody trying to get rid of something, I certainly offer to take it off their hands, and we keep it here at the office safe, and that way too we can also kind of study it, because if stuff does happen, then we are interested in that as a parapsychologist. Unfortunately, the two items I have never done anything. But the question I have for you is that there's some really interesting things, and I noticed tonight in the chat a lot of people are talking about John Zaffis. So John Zaffis is connected to the Warrens because he's family, but it's almost like they've cut him off and he's kind of on his own. And then there's another agency called the Warren Legacy Foundation, where a gentleman named Chris McKinnell claims that the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research was established in collaboration with Lorraine Warren, and he claims to be a grandson. What have you dug up on that? And we know that for a fact that the New England Society for Psychic Research does not like the Warren Legacy Foundation. They're often posting that this is not associated to them and not associated to Ed and Lorraine Warren. What can you tell us about this strange family dynamic happening here?
There seems to be quite a war happening. The deeper I get into this, the more I learn about it. I did know of John when I started this. It's simply because I did the history on the Warrens, their personal histories. And John Zaffis is the nephew of Ed Warren. He is Ed Warren's twin sister's son. So he's a very close relation to the Warrens, to Ed himself. And then, of course, then Chris, the grandson. He is, in fact, a grandson. The war that is going on. So the Warren's Legacy Foundation claims they established themselves with Lorraine's assistance to further the actual mission that Nesper was on, because now it's off track and under new leadership that's not going so well in a lot of people's opinions. And the fact of the matter is, they're both not really doing great work for the paranormal community. There's a lot of back and forth about the lying. Chris has come out a few times in interviews saying the motorcycle accident definitely didn't happen. That was a lie. But this definitely did. And in my opinion, some of the things he said that happened didn't happen. And then there's a lot of buzz around Lorraine's final years in the field. She was not 100% there mentally. She was suffering from some aging and some dementia, and wasn't capable of leading and making decisions and being a part of it, in my opinion. I don't think she should have been anymore. And then there's all this rumor and hearsay that she was kind of exploited to create these avenues and to make money still. And there's a lot of there's a lot of negative things being said. It's really sad. And I plan to address them all as delicately as I can on the show. People are going to be angry. There's the things I'm hearing, the rivalries that are happening, the he said, she said that's happening. There's a whole war right now. There's people siding up. There's a lot of religious warriors chiming in, the devil's on duty right now. The demons are making this happen. I'm a demon. I'm being represented by demons. The devil's trying to cause all this animosity between everybody. And they're doing it themselves. It's a power trip. It's like this fight for power.
So what's John Zaff's relationship with the Warrens? How did he fit into the family tree?
So he is the nephew of Ed, his sister's son, and he worked closely with Ed and their investigations. But when Tony took over the Warrens' son-in-law, Tony Spira, John separated himself from it. And I don't know the actual facts behind that decision. I just know the rumors, and I know that they are not on good terms.
Okay. And then Chris McKinnell, is that how you say his last name?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
He claims to be a grandson?
Yes, he is a grandson. I recently asked to confirm this. I want to say he's Judy's son from her first marriage. I think that's right. So he is a legitimate grandson. However, a lot of people do not believe he's a legitimate investigator. They do not believe anything he says holds any stock. And there is a lot of rumor for the reasons why he's not currently in the United States. So that's a pretty touchy subject for a lot of people. A lot of people really love him. And then there's a lot of people that really don't.
Yeah, Eric just confirmed.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I asked them because I was trying to get my facts straight, so I knew who was.
Yeah, and it's
a lot
important.
to remember.
For sure. It is a lot to remember, and this is something that's been going on for a long time. I've heard John Zaffis's name in the field. I've never met him or spoke to him myself personally, but I have heard his name and knew that he was associated with the Warrens, but separately, and obviously knew that there was, something going on there. In the event that I went to, held by Nesper in 2018, Lorraine was still alive, but she didn't attend that event. I assume, like you said, because she was, elderly and probably limiting what she was getting involved with. But I did meet Tony Spira and Judy, and I got along fine. And I think I told you this on your podcast. I got along fine with Tony, especially once I found out that he was a police officer. I didn't know that about him. So I was a current police officer when I met him. So we kind of had that, the thin blue line kind of connection. Mm-hmm. And of course, I told him, like, you're director of NESPAR. I'm director of Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation. We're a registered nonprofit organization in Canada. And so we kind of got along. But after that event, I've reached out to him a few times, looking to possibly bring him up here to Canada to speak. And every time I send an email or a Facebook message to him, I don't get any response. And on the Facebook message, I can actually see that he's read it, but he hasn't responded. So this is just this would just be like my personal thoughts on it. I don't know if it's true or not, but I almost feel like, when I met him, got along great with him, paid my money to go in there. But now that, I don't know, I kind of feel like where he's not communicating with me or even sending me some sort of response, it's almost, you almost feel like, was he only communicating with you for the money because you paid one of their event kind of thing. That's the way that he's left me feeling. So, I guess I would have to use an I statement. I feel, that I was only communicated to for my money. And it's really sad because, like I said, the New England Society for Psychic Research is paranormal investigative organizations in that area. And my organization does cover the New England area as well. We only have 2 investigators, one in Maine and one in Rhode Island. And we don't get any cases. I don't think we've ever had a case reported to us. Most of it comes from Nova Scotia, but that's because that's where I'm at and I'm publicizing the organization here. So that's where most of our attention comes from. But there was just no cohesiveness or no partnership or no
camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Like, we're both former police officers. We're both directors of an organization that, I know what my goals are, but, they apparently have the same goals to investigate, to help people, things like that, to educate people. So you would think that there would be more cohesiveness, but there's not.
Yeah.
Dr. Elliott, I'm sorry, you did not bring any money. You
Yeah,
didn't bring
yeah.
money.
I was
That's the
gonna
way
say,
that's the way I was left feeling. I offered
Yeah.
I offered to bring them up this year. I offered last year actually for our first symposium because demonology is a popular topic amongst people. People want to hear about demons, and
Mhm.
obviously the media really pushes that now for all the TV shows like the
Yeah.
Travel Channel and all the shows, where it's on, where paranormal shows are on. It's all about demons and evil things and scary things. That's the flavor
Yeah,
Mhm.
today. Um, so last year we had Dr. Richard Gallagher come, who's a psychiatrist from the Columbia
fantastic.
University that believes
Mhm.
in demonic possession. So he came and spoke, and people loved it. So I was
Well,
trying
he
to get.
actually he doesn't believe in the possession. Like let's use the proper terminology here. It's not just he believes; he knows. He knows. As a psychiatrist, he knows.
That's
That
true.
yeah, and I know that you know that, but sometimes we're so used to using that kind of a language, which may be just a little bit incorrect. So he knows, and
Yeah,
actually
no, he would
here,
go. He would go that far. Yeah, he would say that. He would say that there's no doubt in his mind, or
that's right.
as we
So he
say in
knows.
court, beyond a reasonable doubt. He knows that there's some people that are
Absolutely.
demonically possessed. Um, but I had offered, again for a second year in a row, to bring Tony up, and no response at all.
Yeah.
So
I was
yeah,
gonna
it's just
say you're not the only person who feels that way, that it's just about the money. I've heard that from a few people. And then if you look at the recent track record of who he is working with, it's these YouTubers that are raking in the dough with their millions and millions of views. So that says something.
Yeah, it just I definitely lost respect over like from the time I met him in 2018 until now. I've lost respect,
Hmm.
um, for him and the organization. And now they're going they're going through quite a period as well. They've lost some investigators, and there's a lot of infighting and things like that going on from what I've been following. So what can you tell us about the current state of one of New England's oldest paranormal investigative teams?
So it is being run by Tony. He is the person in charge. And then he has his, what they call the senior lead investigator, which is Dan Rivera. And then there's another man that I don't know much about. I've not looked into him yet. His name is Chris. I can't remember his last name. Eric knows. He works with them too, and they've got their own entertainment company. I think it's TCD Entertainment, and that's a little off considering they're supposed to be running the organization that's supposed to be helping people with paranormal, but now we're operating an organization about entertainment. So that kind of leans more towards things aren't exactly true for coming from them. And then there's a lot of hearsay that as far as Nesper's original mission of helping people and taking on these cases and going to people and addressing their concerns and situations, apparently Tony's not doing that anymore. I've heard from more than one person he doesn't even open the emails anymore. So there's no more helping. It's just roadshow.
And this could be true too. The TDC, Eric says, stands for Tony, Dan, Chris. I'm sure if you probably pulled up their business, because it's an LLC, limited liability corporation down there in the U.S. They're probably listed as directors, officers for the company. And it is interesting, like you said, they've registered now and have a limited liability corporation promoting their paranormal conferences. Whereas we don't. Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation hosts or organizes the Halifax Paranormal Symposium, but we don't have like an entertainment agency. We do it all ourselves. We fundraise throughout the year to generate money, and then obviously we hope that tickets sell for the event to help pay for it. But I took a big risk when I started this. I didn't have and this was a big discussion with my wife that's part of the organization as well, because she's our chief financial officer for the organization. And I took a big risk because I said I wanted to host something that is in between being educational, knowing that most people don't attend very highly academic seminars anymore. In fact, there's even a push now for the to kind of break things down into layman's terms for people, because they're just not getting the audience when it's too highly academic, and also entertaining as well, to draw in those people that love the ghost shows and the TV shows.
Yep.
The things I don't watch or can't stand to watch.
Yeah.
So we kind of came to a happy medium where it's, we'll bring in entertaining people, but it's also very educational and factual. And we do it all ourselves. And I took that huge risk to put that on. I've lost because we were paying for it out of the organization, and I fund the organization. So it $15,000 to host last year. If absolutely nobody came to that event, I would have been out, and the organization would have been out $15,000. You know what I mean? Like, that was a huge risk. I didn't have Hollywood to back my name up or anything like that. Like, I find that they're very fortunate in the paranormal world if they were to use whatever they're doing for good to have that behind them, because they already have their following behind them. Whereas really work to build our following.
Well, people, we are in the wrong business here.
Yeah.
How come we're standing on the right side? We got to be taking left one to get the stacks of money coming our way, right? Nevertheless, we also want to be authentic and stand for the truth, and this is what we do here. We have a very good comment here. Kathy commented.
Oh, hi, Kathy.
She says that, having the gift of discernment, being able to be a good investigator and a psychic reading is a blessing meant to help those in need. I agree with that. I agree. However, a lot of the times we don't even need to have the supposed gift of discernment. We are being taught that way, that some people do have a gift of discernment and some don't. In fact, we do. All of us do. It is called intuition. And if we listen to it closely, or at least closer, not necessarily too close, we will know what is happening around us. We will know what's happening with us. It's just we have to trust ourselves a little more, because as Kathy says that there's a psychic reading. What is a psychic reading? That is the same kind of intuition, and if we just turn it on, we will be able to know much more than we started out with. But it does help with investigations, and some people are willing to see that and some people are not. And I cannot stress enough that we should not be believing everything that we're told. We have to turn on our rational mind and to check the facts, and if we don't know the facts, so at least turn on our intuition.
Yeah, that's a fine line I struggle with myself. Another big reason I got into making this podcast was because I'm the type of person who, when somebody comes to me with this phenomenal story of a haunting or an experience they've had, or if I see it on TV or in a movie, my first initial reaction every time is, oh my God, that's amazing. And then I have to step back, be like, okay, wait a minute, like, look at it, figure out exactly what's going on, what first caused me to feel that way, what is, actually happening versus what I want to be happening. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just want to be entertained. They're not looking to think rationally about what they've just seen or heard. So I think Nesper's playing on that a lot with the touring of the haunted objects. People just want to see and experience them. They don't care, like, if it's dangerous or if it's real, or they want to have this experience they've heard about.
Oh, absolutely. We have a question for you, Stevie. Terry asks, would you know how large Nespar is? How many members they have?
I'm pretty sure it's like 5 people. So they've got Tony, Dan, and Chris, and then I think there's 2 more people that help. I think Jimmy Petanino is part of Nespar still. I think someone just left. I think a man named Rick either just left or was talking about leaving. There's so much going on in that community right now. Like, there's a lot of mudslinging, and there's a lot of people trying to backtrack and fix things that have come out, and it's getting kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is, and part of me sympathizes with Tony a little bit about certain things. So, for example, there can be infighting in an organization, even something as small as NESPAR. I actually dealt with it back in it would have been late 90s, early 2000s when the TV series were just starting to kick off. I think the first one was the TAPS series there, Ghost Hunters. Is that what they called themselves? Was it just Ghost Hunters?
Oh, I think it was just Ghost Hunters. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just Ghost Hunters by TAPS. And we had kind of a splinter group break off from our organization because they really wanted to start kind of going down the TV mode. And it didn't align with what the objectives of the organization was. We weren't going out there to be, Jason and Grant from TAPS and get publicity and things like that. Our job is to focus on helping clients and doing research and paranormal investigations and education. And that caused a big rift, and they ended up secretly creating their own group and kind of just fizzled out and disappeared. So I understand, kind of the some of the politics that can happen with running an organization like that. And for that part, I do kind of sympathize for him, because I know it can be a headache for sure. But it's not good if you're running like a professional organization. You know what I mean? Like, we're registered federally across Canada. We're incorporated in the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we're registered also in the province of Nova Scotia. And I'm part of the board of directors, and my board of directors has a say in what I do. Now, right now, they're really happy with me, but that could change, and they could oust me out of my own organization that I once started. You know what I mean? Like, that's what happens when you become a registered organization and you run it like a business. You have people that you have to answer to. And I guess NESPAR is probably not on that level. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they have a formal board of directors. And obviously they're not what's the nonprofit status down there?
Yeah, I don't think they're a nonprofit. Yeah, I don't think they are. Yeah.
I don't think they are either, because I had talked to you off air about nonprofits in the States have to, or charities have to disclose their finances. And I don't think NESPAR is considered a
I think they operate like a business.
Yeah, almost. Well, probably like an LLC, almost like the entertainment.
Yeah. I don't think they've registered as a business, but they definitely operate as one.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. And like I said, they are. It's sad to kind of see them go through that. Really, putting people and the personalities aside, it's sad to see like one of the oldest paranormal investigative organizations down that way, kind of going through this.
Yeah, I'm hearing from a lot of people, they're just disheartened over it, because they grew up following it. They grew up following the Warrens, and it's not at all what it was, and people are noticing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've noticed it even just on social media. Like, you're starting to really notice it. What do you have coming up on your podcast, Truth and Demons? What have you been working on? What are you planning on releasing soon?
I have so much. I wish I could just freeze time and get them all done so I could put them out all at once, because it's so good. But I have another interview. I spoke with another person who worked closely with NESPAR and who experienced some things with the Warrens. And I have my episode on Arnie Cheyenne Johnson coming up. That's my next main episode. And I've got a lot to cover in that one. I have been speaking to a lot of people and getting a lot of different perspectives. That new documentary that came out was so enlightening, and it really helped with that research. And then I'm really looking forward to doing some more bonus episodes. I'm covering a bonus episode. Since I'm doing YouTube now, I'm going to work on a couple of like debunking style videos where I show what's happening and then explain why or what is going on and why it's not truly paranormal. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll have some more guests soon. And eventually I want to cover the scandals. I want to do a whole episode on every scandal, every lawsuit, everything that gets people so skeptical on the Warrens. So there's a whole slew of information there too.
That sounds so interesting.
Very, very interesting. With speaking of the last documentary there that was on
Netflix.
Netflix, yeah, it was based on the Getzel case, which was part of the Conjuring series.
Yep, the last Conjuring film. Yep.
Yeah, the Conjuring 3.
The Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah, that one.
Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah. Have you thought about having him on your show?
So I have thought about reaching out to Arnie. However, he is very tight with Tony. And Tony is not my biggest fan right now, or ever probably. I don't think I'll ever be someone he likes. However, I have spoken to some other people involved, and we'll be releasing that. I'm keeping it under wraps now because we're still working on it. But there is some stuff I've got up my sleeve for that episode I'm very excited about. I've got some debunks for that one that I'm very excited about. And also, I've been working with some local artists, some people around Tennessee, and they draw me up cute little things for merch. And each episode, I like to do a little themed drawing to go with it. And so I've got a fun one coming for that too.
Interesting. So Getzel is still very tight with Nespar. What about?
Oh no! I'm sorry, Arnie. Arnie is tight. The Glatzels.
Oh, Arnie is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Arnie. So Arnie's very tight with Tony, and they
even after that documentary.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did a live. I don't remember when the live was, but they did a live together with James Anito and a woman who specializes in serial killers, and they did a whole thing, and they seemed very close then. And but David doesn't speak to anybody. He did the documentary, but as far as I know, he's not speaking to anyone. So David won't be an option, but I have heard some things about David from some people close to him, so I'll be sharing those as well. So there's so much. Like when I started researching for this one, I started researching it right before the movie came out. And I like to put, if there's a movie, I like to do it if it's coming out soon. I don't want to put the episode out until people have seen the movie, because what I like to do is talk about the movie, talk about what happens, how they've written the story, how it goes, and then write it, fix the things that have been misconstrued or misconveyed, and let people understand where the changes happened. So I started working on it before the movie came out, then the movie came out, and then the documentary came out, and I was about to put the episode out, and then I saw the announcement for the documentary, and I was like, well, I have to wait. I have to see what happens. And then the stuff they dropped in the documentary, like the whole possible Munchausen by proxy from the Glatzels, the mom from Judy Glatzel onto her children, that was pretty intense. And that was an accusation brought up by the brother Carl. He said that he found out his mom was drugging them every night, and it's a harmless drug when you take it as needed. But when you take it long term, the stuff I found out about this drug is going to blow people's minds. I had no idea. My boyfriend actually, he's really scientific, and he likes to study a lot of things. And one of the things he likes to study is the effects that different substances have on the body. And he knows of this website that he directed me to that has firsthand accounts of people who have abused that drug on purpose. So they tell their stories and what happened to them, and the similarities are bizarre.
And you can't tell us the drug's name.
It's okay, so it's Sominex. What it was called then, the brand name was Sominex, and it's essentially Benadryl.
Oh,
interesting. Because the Arnie Johnson thing, I was surprised of, because he was basically upset that people were making money off of basically his story is the gist of the documentary. And then there was that one brother, like you said, that it was interesting. Everyone else in the documentary said that paranormal things happened, except for that one brother. There was just that one brother that had talked about drugs and that he didn't witness anything paranormal.
Yep.
And I thought that was interesting because you had all the other witnesses that kind of said, some, and then you had one guy that just said, nothing happened,
and
kind of
they were a lot of them said they were influenced a lot by Judy, the children. So anything she would have said, they would have gone along with. And then he wasn't interviewed on the show, but Carl did bring him up. Even the other sons, David, and I can't remember the other brother's name, they brought him up, the father. He didn't believe in it either. He wasn't interviewed on the documentary, but there is a scene where they talk about how David was having a possession fit, and the dad comes in and says, knock it off, swats him, and goes back to his room, and it's done. Like, if it was really a demon, Dad's not going to put it into it.
Yeah. And then they said in the documentary, the brother had said once the dad had struck him, he kind of snapped out of it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, very, very fascinating. You definitely dig deep into the Warrens and their investigations. I think it's great because it's all factual. Like, you've gone to archives, you've pulled up records. You're not spreading, misinformation. You're going to the sources and interviewing firsthand people, not third-hand information. And you stipulate where you don't know whether or not, this is hearsay, but this is, what I heard. So it's great. I think the work you're doing is great. Hopefully you continue to do it. Where can people find you? Any of our listeners that are out there that want to listen to Truth or Demons podcast, or maybe send you some information that they may have on what you're looking for.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've had the best time. It's been so much fun.
It has been a pleasure, great pleasure.
Thank you. And it was so nice to meet you too, Yana. This has been great. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube now, Truth or Demons podcast on YouTube, and every podcast platform I'm on, Truth or Demons podcast. You can also email me if you have any questions, if you want to send me a story. I do like to share the listener stories. I have a little segment where I do that. My email is truthordemonspodcast@gmail.com. Also on all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Truth or Demons podcast. You can message me there, comment, and I try to reply to everybody. If I miss it, don't think I'm being rude. I probably just didn't see it. So send another message or comment and just be like, hey, I'm here.
Absolutely. I know you're busy because you work and you do all this on the side. You almost need to be compensated and paid to just do this full time, because it is, turning into a full-time
Absolutely.
job.
I would love to do it full time. My slow season's coming up for work, so I'll be putting out some more here coming up soon. I'm very excited.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait. I definitely listen to your podcast because it's always so interesting. Appreciate you coming. Everyone, tonight you were listening to Science and the Paranormal. We broadcast live on the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM out of New Orleans, and also on Roku TV. If you just give us a like, a follow, subscribe, share, and comment. There was lots of comments tonight, which is great to see. It just helps support Dr. Yana and I on this podcast. And if you have any questions as well, we do have a website. It's scienceandparanormalpodcast.com. Our email is scienceandtheparanormal@ppri.net. Feel free to reach out to us. And Stevi, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Absolutely.
It was great. It was good to get
very much.
Some of that misinformation out there and cleared up. And if you want the facts and you want someone to dig deep,
go to Stevi.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. Well, have a good night, everyone.
You too.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.